Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of Rendezvous with Anja Saqib on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe. These extraordinary ladies and gentlemen are not only key thought leaders, but also domain experts who've made a considerable amount of significant difference in the fields that they're working in. Today as well, we've got one such lifetime member at CxO Global Forum who's joined us today. He is none other than Mr. Salman Tufail. He's known to be a global disruptor, and we're very excited to be speaking to him. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Salman.
I'm honored to be here, Anza. Thank you for having me over.
Thank you. So, you have an illustrious career, and, people, even just going through your LinkedIn profile, uh, one is inspired to say the least. But I want to know where your journey began. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Did you face any challenges along the way? And how did you end up becoming a global disruptor?
Okay, well, I started very basic, just like any other Pakistani. And if you'd like to name the schools, I started with Montessori used to name Tirnas. It doesn't exist anymore, I think. Went from Montessori to Karachi Public School, spent 7 years there. And from there, I had a life-changing moment from grade 8 onwards. So I moved to Lahore from a Karachi public school, a matriculation system, to an international school of Shafat, which was an international chain.
Right.
So there I a couple of years over there. I had, because the school timings were totally different there. So they used to have school from 8 to 4. And back in the days, early days also, I was a natural into sports naturally. So I was a runner and one of the top athletes back in the grades, junior school as well. Going into Shoifat, I had access to a swimming pool and many other things. So I became one of the best swimmers there and went ahead with sports a lot. Came back to Karachi a couple of years later, won some awards there. Went to Beacon House schooling system when I moved back to Karachi. Became an athlete through Beacon House. So won lots of awards from there. From Beacon, I went to L'École for A-levels, finished that too before time, and went to Boston University. So that's the whole thing. And 2004, I came back, joined my father, family group, and we were into the business of petrochemicals and manufacturing of chemicals that time. Coming back, and with my background of technology and IT from Boston as well, I was studying computer science over there. I came back, I started, creating small disruptions by taking the regular system to an ERP, which was self-developed in the company. So doing that, and then with some other friends, we developed a lot of things together, and things started moving on. Being in the family company, when you come back, usually our culture is like you have to focus and you have to take this up, right? That's the mindset we have to follow, or you're somehow forced to follow.
Yeah. It's like the whole plan is chalked out for you.
Yes. So, skipping all that part, 2010, I was a regular visitor to China, but in 2010, I stumbled upon another industry altogether because my father had asked me to build a house. And I went around the market. I did not understand what was happening, could not absorb what was offered. So I went directly to the source, took a flight, landed after 22 hours, sat in a cab, took another 7-hour journey right then to a village where I stayed for 2 days just to select the marble I needed. And the cost savings just from that one item were, let me give you I don't want to disrupt too much here, but let me give you a percentage that whatever it was offered to me at that time, I got the same thing installed at my home in 30% of the cost.
Unbelievable.
Okay. So I went back, did a 2 year research, and started a venture where you can, have anything under one roof, or be it a commercial sort of a business, building a residential, an office, entertainment place, whatever you need. So I got 40 different products in Pakistan, out of which I remember 13 or 14 were brand new in the market.
Wow.
So bringing 40 different products in a price where everybody can afford a house,
Hmm.
just like their dream, Nobody has to say कि वो DHA वाले afford कर सकते हैं और हम नहीं कर सकते.
Yeah.
So anyways, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So
Uh,
even that problem of affordability, that in itself must have caused quite a bit of disruption back in the
at
day.
the age of 29, I did that disruption with 40 different industries of Pakistan.
Great.
So everybody became an enemy. But I continued that business for about 3 years and then distributed it amongst lots of friends. Each had a product, and now they're all doing good. And I stepped out of it. And
Okay. And what was the reason for doing that?
well, I had much bigger fish to fry.
Right.
So plus the industry, black red tapes and challenges is something that I don't do. I
Right.
try to empower people and not, the other way around. So money is not money was never my target, nor did I have it at my disposal in an abundant way. So I had the resources, but I did not have the mindset to do that. I
Yeah.
was, because of being a natural athlete from childhood. You always develop a nature which is, acceptable to new challenges, and you really cannot. You're driven and thrived on challenges. You need one every day. You become
Absolutely.
so that's
Couldn't agree
somehow
more.
became my, nature.
Right.
And
Right.
now,
Absolutely. And what led you to becoming, the CEO and COO of so many companies and leading such big companies? Then,
so having multiple experiences, this was just one of the short experience I told you. I have experiences in many different industries, be it, it's a long list. So
yeah.
the
But
only
what is
reason,
that one experience, or rather, I'm sure everybody asks about your successes, but it would be interesting to know, was there any one particular failure or challenge that really defined who you are today? And if you look back and you realize that, okay, had this one thing not happened, I would not have reached the stage that I am at right now.
okay,
Anyone?
so let me tweak your question and answer it a bit differently. I see all of them as failures, whether people or the world see it as success or not. Any one of my projects in the past, before 2019, because
Hmm.
now it's changed. So I used to do different ventures to understand the industry and then leave the industry to catch on to another one and understand that.
Hmm.
Time and exposure was something that I had an abundance of because of the infrastructure I was working in, having a
Right.
family structure background in industry.
Right.
So I was never, I did not have money in my hands to play with like that. And I
Hmm.
was always on a salary basis in my father's company.
Hmm.
But I had the vision and the resources to channelize them in a proper strategic way to make things happen. So I used to, and because my hands-on experience into many different fields, as small as plumbing, electrical, or carpentry, even, I
Hmm.
do everything by hand. So having such an experience,
Wow.
becoming CEO becomes very easy because whenever you walk into any place, your critical eye sees a lot of things which normal people don't. Because regularly you have to be, after you graduate, you have to become a part of the system to survive.
Right.
I was never that product. So I had to develop new ways, and I always used to find gaps and resolve problems to find solutions. So those continuous approach and missions and companies and ventures give you a myth that it's not easy and it takes time to develop. But this experience can now accelerate a lot many others who want to do that.
Right, absolutely. Um, See, one of the things that, at least someone on the outside would assume about you would be that, all right, so because you went to a certain school, be it Karachi Public School or even Shoifat for that matter, now these are schools which people believe the general perception is that if you go to any one of these colleges or Boston University, you already have an unfair advantage as compared to the others. How far do you think this statement is true?
I'll just ask one question because I don't agree with the statement at all.
Hmm.
Tell me one school in this whole world which teaches how to earn money as a subject.
None of them. None of them. And that brings me to my next question. One area in which we need to work quite a bit, even now, is industry academia linkages in Pakistan because we're producing a lot of fresh graduates, and but the industry, since I personally interact with a lot of C levels on a daily basis. Even your MNCs and FMCGs say that unfortunately the graduates that are being produced, be it in the be it in accounting, be it in business management, even soft skills matter, they lack soft skills or they lack practical exposure, and it's like you have to invest in your management trainees and so on and so forth. How do you think we can bridge this gap of industry academia linkages in Pakistan?
See, first of all, the academia up to the lockdown period was managed in a way that it was run as a, I don't want to say certain words, but run as an infrastructure to produce the amount of human resource to be able to do the jobs required for the country. Let's put it in a broader perspective like that, right? We were, first of all, the policies, like you cannot even teach certain things in the college or a graduate, even in master courses, and then have them a job and the company does not have to go through and teach them all again. So there are a lot of certain things which are not offered in the curriculum, which companies require, let alone industry. So industrial gap and the demand and supply gap created by the academia and the industry and not taken care of was only because we were living in the era of informative education and not transformative education. I've been walking my whole life through transformative education rather than informative education. Being in any university or school, again, as I said, they don't teach you how to earn money. You need to step out of your classroom, learn whatever you have, but you need to interact with people, walk the walk, and it takes
That's all.
blood.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
takes blood, not sweat. So you have to get on the ground, roll your sleeves up, and jump in. That's the only way you learn the industry inside out, and then you go master and become a guru.
So it's interesting how we're talking about industry academia linkages and the culture that has been established now. Um, we interact with a lot of startups on a daily basis. I'm sure you have probably interacted with more startups than I can even imagine. But one recurring theme that I've seen is this whole culture where they feel like college degrees are not so important, and two, it's about the pitch that we make. They have a million ideas, but ideas are a dime a dozen. um, how do you see the startup ecosystem in Pakistan?
It's going to be very good once they all sit together. Who is actually a vision and a stakeholder, not friends, not committees. It has to be a properly knitted web of industrialists, of think tanks, of government, of departments, of institutes, and only then a proper strategy can be developed and walked in a proper direction, Right now, the problem with startups is, you see, every kid in the world thinks of driving or owning a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. I take those names as common in a sports car. So very few actually get to own them or even say, let alone own, just rent them, right?
Yeah.
So startups, especially the young ones, young founders mostly, they look at the other big startups, they see how much seed or grants they got, and they
Yeah.
try to beat that number. Wrong approach. Wrong approach. Entrepreneurs do not work for money. Entrepreneurs find a problem and create a solution, and money runs after themselves. Grants run after them. You don't run after grants and money. So I never needed the grant or the money to do whatever I did in my past. Once
That's
you have the
giving
money,
me a whole perspective shift, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching, uh, they have a
that's
whole
what
perspective.
a lot of the questions I get asked are from the past. It is
Mhm.
like this. People need to adapt and understand that is not going to come back. So get on the
Right.
new train or be left behind. So the entrepreneur world needs to understand to create or be part of an ecosystem. Not see what they do is they think small. They think as a businessman. They think becoming a businessman is entrepreneurship. No, that's thinking small, thinking for yourself. You have to think big and be part of something big. Only then you can go forward and make your mark.
Is that why not just startups, but businesses in general fail at
They,
that infancy stage?
they fail because they get good grants and they start partying.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say that a
The
lot of
vision.
times, their pitches are amazing. I've heard some amazing pitches
See,
in,
I
startups.
have heard pitches from people who are billionaires in terms of US dollars even. And it's all a
Mhm.
fake pitch because they don't have the vision or the faith in their self or their consortium or the company to what to do next because this train is stopping. So
Right,
there's a lot of pitch out there. Some
right.
of them don't even have the product they show, not even on the designing stage.
Hmm.
And you have to filter out all the YouTube pitches.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like, there's too many
A
people
lot
inspired by Dragon's
of
Den and what do you call it? All these TV shows that are,
yeah.
right.
So,
Absolutely.
you have to have a complete change of mindset now. You cannot achieve the goals we are trying to achieve with the strategies, playing alone and getting the grants for yourself, not sitting in the consortium or making committees of friends which cannot deliver and just take pictures. You have to
Right.
sit back and execute, create a proper timeline, reverse engineer it, and you have the hour. Once you have the hour, you can take as many breaks as you want because you know you wasted an hour and you need to catch up.
Right.
Once you're scheduled, disciplined, having a vision, everything is possible. Grants, again, money and grants will run after entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs don't work for money and grants.
Right. Absolutely. Um, Unfortunately, the past 2 years almost have taught us all quite a bit. In terms of the pandemic, we saw that a lot of businesses suffered heavy losses. There was a lot of people that were either laid off or suffered some financial difficulties. Whereas some business, and especially those businesses that were involved in tech related solutions, their sales skyrocketed. How did the pandemic affect you? Did you have to do any firefighting, or did you pick up a new skill perhaps?
Well, the pandemic hit us just like everybody else. We faced a lot of, family and relative passing by. But I would still say the lockdown was a blessing for me in many, many, many ways. Because as I said, I'm a disruptive and unorthodox sort of a person since childhood. So when the lockdown was announced, that was the day I started running properly. And I took out all the papers in my shelved. compartments, placed them together, made a mind map, and started executing. So that's the reason I got to achieve all those things I did without, spending much time. So I started all sorts of tech-related businesses, and I don't want to solicit it on a global forum here, but the opportunity when everybody's sitting or crying over the spilled milk, that's the time when you run and find your new bunch of cows. So
Right.
that's what I did.
You sound like you're pathologically optimistic, if I'm at liberty to
I
say
don't
that.
For me, the lockdown was the magician's front hand. I was focusing on the back hand where the sleight of hand is going to work.
Right.
That's where you need to focus because, see, once you're you're promised that you will get a problem every single day. And if something is over, you've achieved that, you get another one because you're leveling up. That's how I see it. So money and putting money in bank and saying I'm the tallest now is something I don't go by with because they're printed at the back end. Why should I save it? It's a tool for me. So this tool I use to empower those around me so that when my next of kin grows up, they have brain around them to work with. That's, you need to have vision and you need to work constantly, consistently, without deviating from it. And
We're, we're going
everybody,
to we're going to hear more about your vision. But speaking of startups and post-pandemic in particular, we've seen a lot of growth in one particular sector, and that's fintech. Because as we moved to lockdowns and people had to do work from home or sit in isolation, there was a lot of financial transactions that were going on in an otherwise cash-rich economy. And we saw that new payment gateways were established. We saw the Rust pop up, which was State Bank's own venture. And similarly, we saw a lot of billing aggregators and so on and so forth. How do you see the growth of fintech in Pakistan?
it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. But the people are again thinking chaotically, running after coins, running after making apps to be able to get into the NFC cashless system
Right.
or what you. Those are just the front ends. The picture is much bigger, and people don't understand that because of the lack of education or the knowledge of the field. Again, I don't like to solicit, but we've done big in fintech, like really big. And we've not done it in Pakistan, we've done it abroad, and now we're bringing it to Pakistan.
Right.
So the fintech industry is something Pakistan is going to be very, very good at. The only thing is that the resources are not collaborative. Again, the mindset has to be there. The
Yeah.
resources have to sit on one platform. This platform has to be run and supervised by the policymakers. And there's a lot that's changing the banking industry. But the banks need to gear up. Their policies again are not aligned. The
Right. The
most
mandate, sorry, go on.
the most difficult and important part of this thing is to find and get the resources under one roof in Pakistan. They do exist, but they're hiding because they're scared.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are even before the lockdown started, I believe there were about 13 or 15 cashless payment systems in Pakistan
Hmm.
developed, trying to go into the proper execution stage. Uh, how we grab this fintech problem by the horns is totally different, and we have a revolutionized fintech technology, which is not yet available in the market. Neither has anybody used it as sort in Pakistan. We're going to be working on this field as well, along with our EdTech and AgriTech and other tech industries we're into.
That's amazing. We'd love to hear more about it, perhaps in a later show. But it's interesting that you did mention the mindset of the people because, I interview a lot of senior bankers as well. And so there's two things. Number one, on the level of the bank, as in the whole entity, there has been, some very positive changes. For example, um, you know, incorporating Russian digital accounts, so making it easier for overseas Pakistanis to now send remittances and whatnot. So that's happening officially. But when I still speak to, let's say, the VPs or the AVPs of these banks, they're still adamant on using brick and mortar systems like signing checks rather than using online banking. How do you think this narrative can be changed? They just feel like it's not safe anymore or they're not comfortable with the experience.
Well, one easy way is to take a visit when the airlines open the industry, is to go to Scandinavia and see how they adapted. They have people over the age of 90 who are using, it's completely cashless. China
Yeah,
is have cities they're having cashless cities. Uh, the banks are doing good with all the initiatives, but again, those are just small modules of a whole body. They're not there yet because the knowledge is not with the right people, and the right people are unable to get the access to those people who can make it happen. No, it's complete ecosystem you have to develop, and platforms like CxO Global is making that happening in Pakistan. So
you sorry, go on.
yeah, this is what I'm saying. It has to be a complete ecosystem under the umbrella, supervised, channelized, mind mapped, and then go forward. So all the companies you took name and many more are doing good. But again, they are small modules scattered in different places. One has to connect them in a web and make it work in a coherent, cohesive way. It has to be a confluence follow.
Right, absolutely. I couldn't
Otherwise,
agree.
what happens is startups get buyed out.
Right.
And this is the mindset of our startups. They want to become certain amount and then they want to go buy out. So we can do our parties. No,
Yeah.
it's not going to work like that. So,
Yes, because
anyways,
I don't have that bigger goal in mind, like looking at the broader picture, like creating some kind of social impact. But speaking of how banks are transforming as well, I do agree with you wholeheartedly, and the potential for it. But what's the point of coming up with, let's say, a disruptive idea or something revolutionary in fintech, where in most of these areas, it's all right if you're like in the KLI region and you're in the urban centers, but when you go especially towards the rural areas, you don't even, I mean, let alone 4G or broadband, you don't even have, you barely have 2.5G, right? How and even when we saw this with the SR's program, you know, so money was being disseminated not through cash but through an ATM-like system. But most people did not even come claim uh, that aid that they received just because they didn't have that financial awareness or they were
see,
just not. Yeah. So what do you think we should do in this regard?
I understand your question. See, again, the thing is, those were all the information from the past. Now, Pakistan is doing amazingly well in the tech industry. They're doing amazingly well to reach out to those remote areas. The policies are good. The people are good. They're bringing things in a way that it's going to make an effect in a certain time period. It needs that time to create that infrastructure. You cannot rush that. But then again, coming back to your question about remote areas and how to empower them, that's where again solicitation, but that's where again we are fitting in because of the cloud services and DaaS services. So once you should realize that, let alone 2G or 2.5G or 4G or 5G, everybody has a cell phone.
Right.
Everybody has. And cell phone reach in Pakistan is one of the best.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so through a cell phone screen,
85% I was reading in the latest report. So 85% of people in Pakistan of legal age own a cell phone.
well, illegal age is not accounted for, and every kid of our
Yeah.
houses has those phones as
Yeah.
well. So whether be it for a small time, they have tablets. The
Yeah.
thing, the thing is, the internet industry and revolution, the confluence is needed again. So the tech is revolutionizing this area. How it's
Mhm.
doing that? By providing cloud-based power to any user who cannot afford even a good connection. So once they're on the internet through their cell phones, even at 2G or 2.5G speeds, the power given on the cloud is giving them much faster results in e-learnings, and it's just on your imagination.
Yes, there's a lot of potential. You did
Now,
mention cloud services, right? Go on.
internet is a beast and a monster, so you need to know how you want to tame it.
Right. That's what I was coming to. So it's not just your personal usage, but it's remarkable how you mentioned cloud services because when the pandemic happened, a lot of businesses had to transform themselves digitally, and there's a lot of hype around the buzzword. So cloudification, go on the cloud, everything goes on the cloud. But a lot of businesses still are reluctant because they feel like there are some cybersecurity risks. So not just
Yes,
to the person, not just to the child or the individual that's using it in the field, but also to businesses because there's a lot of sensitive company data. So what do you think we need to do in the domain of cybersecurity?
first of all, hand it over to the people who are taking care of this whole, as a group. Cybersecurity right now is extremely bad. Why? Because we are not focused on it. People are, even the startups, I see many startups coming to me, offering me to venture them for, let's say, smart door locks, for one.
Yeah,
Even big companies, I don't want to name any, but the biggest companies in the world, they're hackable by the smallest cell phone in the world. So where is your house security? So that also comes under cybersecurity, let alone the company data security. Data security is much beyond this door lock.
hmm,
Okay. So there's so much lack of information, and that again is because uh, everybody was running after the same line. Nobody even thought about the security problems because of the products they wanted, because they thought it was their need. So cybersecurity, the main problem is we have to have the policy to let the kids who are scared right now come out into the conferences or let's say a convention hall, have a proper cyber security conference, a
right.
competition, award them, put them as white labels, send them out, do their banks, their companies in Pakistan. I'm not going to name anyone, but once you do penetration tests, you see how vulnerable they are. And
Yeah,
then a party comes in. When you tell them, sir, you have this vulnerability, they say, okay, we'll get it fixed. You say, okay, go on, up to you. So then the vendor comes in, they say, okay, sir, we fix it. So everybody is trying to do shortcuts. We have to understand, we have to work as a nation, as one.
yeah.
Unless we're not doing that, we're doing business. And we're doing business
And
with
our
each other,
strategy,
not so far.
right. Our strategy with regards to cybersecurity, especially in the corporate ecosystem, has generally been more defensive rather than offensive one. Now, globally, I've noticed that whenever you're talking cybersecurity, even for big companies like Etisalat or Do Telecom, you do see that there's two teams constantly on the go: your red team, your blue team. So one is creating and adapting, ransomware, malware, and um, and then the other team is thinking of ideas and ways to counter those attacks. So they already have their contingencies in place.
Of
Now
course.
here we're waiting for
And
some attack to happen.
by the way, right, regardless of cybersecurity, every other industry works like this.
Right. So I
But
think that's it.
yeah, again, the problem is that we need to empower, call upon, and highlight and have competitions in convention centers of those kids who are interested in this field in our country. Bring
Right.
them up, bring them forward. Once we have white hackers, white collars,
Ethical hacking. Right.
ethical hackers, sorry, I jumped my word.
Yeah.
Anyways, so, once we have them collaborate and once we identify where they're sitting, much can be done. Much can be done.
Absolutely. There's
And the question regarding why companies are reluctant, sorry. So the companies are reluctant not because of the lack of providers or services they provide, but their own confidentiality issues. I don't want to go in detail of that, but once they overcome their internal mindset and issues and become in this part of the system, They won't have that issue of who's looking at our data and what they're going to do with it.
Right.
So again, the nation has to work as one.
Yeah. Points well taken. Definitely, Mr. Salman Tufail, you've disseminated a lot of valuable knowledge, not just to me, but all our viewers today. And we appreciate the time that you've taken. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of today's session, but towards the end, I have a couple of questions for you. And the first one being, you kept mentioning there was a recurring theme in all your answers. You kept talking about a vision. You know, what is your vision? What is your mission? What is your goal?
Again, as I said, entrepreneurs don't work for money. So my vision is not grants or money or power or anything. I'm literally for the past 8 months, I've developed a framework to empower the deaf, disabled, and transgenders globally. For that, we together collectively created a framework and products to support the framework to enable us to do that. Because nobody right now wants to give a job to a mute or a deaf. In Europe, they're allowed to have university degrees. Why not here? Are they not human? Who's empowering the vendors? Nobody. So this, if I just collectively see the data and the population of the deaf, mute, disabled, and transgenders in Pakistan, and I just work on them, is that not a big business? Let me put it in that word. Empower them so that they can earn a bread and respect in the society, and their kids can educate. So that when our kids grow up, again, I said that earlier, when our kids grow up, they need brains in front of them, not produce who is made to be part of the system and pensions and whatnot. Get out of the job mindset. We do need people. Not everybody is going to become an entrepreneur, but at least try. Try to do what you love to do. Don't worry about what somebody will say.
Right. Absolutely. Sounds a beautiful vision, and we wish you all the best for it.
It's a very tough job. Developing more resources.
One thing that I've read, and it did resonate well with me, was that people will always forget what you do for them. So today, if you were to buy someone, a top employee, a new Lamborghini or whatever, XYZ, they might forget it after a certain period of time. But people will never forget how you make them feel. So as long as you can have that right kind of impact, the things that you do for yourself, those are gone when you're gone. But the things that you do for others, that's your real legacy.
Exactly. And this is what I try and teach the kids who come to me, that, believe in the afterlife, and the credits over there are not exchangeable by any currency in this world. Gain those.
True.
Find gaps in the society. You'll see the problems. Don't educate them how to resolve the problem. Let them be creative to resolve them, and they'll innovate and become entrepreneurs. You have to have transformative education system rather than the old informative system. We've all seen its failed back.
Absolutely, and it's interesting for for our audience's knowledge. So, the movie industry and the gaming industry collectively do not even make half the revenue that transformative technology does globally. So, we're sitting on an untapped resource we need to all look into. So, towards the end of the show, what do you think is the utility of forums like the CxO Global?
Huge, huge. You're connecting people globally. People who see us when you talk to us and we convey our messages to those young kids and next generation, they start developing a vision. If we are able to motivate them, even we don't know how big of an impact it might create. So forums like you, it's a very good job, very well done. I give all the kudos to you, your team, and Kamal especially. And once again, a big for having me over.
Thank you very much, and we hope to hear more from you in the future. Please keep contributing to the knowledge economy. Thank you
Always.
very much for your time.
Everybody's right, and it should be free, by the way. So we're always grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this extraordinary show today. Please keep us updated with your comments and feedback if you want to learn more about the kind of work that Mr. Salman Tufail does or the projects that he's involved in. We've shared some links in the description below. Up until next time, I'll see you. Take good care of yourselves. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Honored. Islam.